Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you like this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. It's your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me directly, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Launched for 2021 in 250 pieces in stainless steel, this is the Blancpain 50 Fathoms MIL-SPEC limited edition for Hodinkee. 200 pieces sold by Hodinkee, 250 pieces total, with the remainder sold through Blancpain boutiques. Now, it may remind you of the 2017 500-piece MIL-SPEC edition. There are some significant changes, and we'll talk about them in a moment. What has not changed is the reference 5008 case, which is 40.3 millimeters in diameter. It is 13.3 millimeters thick if you just measure the case, but if you add this NATO style strap, it is 15.8 millimeters thick. From lug to lug, a nice compact 46 millimeters with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. We'll throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and you can see that the NATO strap, I'm doing my best to corral the NATO strap, but the NATO strap gives the watch a little bit more shoulder and presence on the wrist. It also makes it thicker. As you can see, it stands proud of the wrist, but it's a comfortable fit. Once it's strapped down, the strap itself is fairly flexible and of exceptional grade for a NATO. And if you were to put this on, for example, a rubber strap or a conventional textile strap or even a leather strap, the fit would be outstanding for a wrist as small as 13 centimeters in circumference, and I rarely say that of a dive style watch. You can see roughly how thick it is. Again, on a conventional strap, this will easily fit underneath the cuff. The NATO strap is of incredibly high grade, and you can see there is a thematic consistency to the finishing of the metal across this watch, with the buckle being satin finished just like the case itself. Of course, it is a high-grade NATO, as Swatch Group factory NATOs tend to be. Let's actually denude it of its strap, because we're going to want to see this case back. The strap is of a high grade, but I always thought of a NATO as an occasional strap. I can see this one living on something like an alligator leather on a daily basis. Now, changes from the 2017 watch. First, the edition number. Half as many of these were made as the 500-piece 2017 edition. You can also see that the dial, which is matte black, does not feature a date. The original MIL-SPEC limited edition in the 40.3 millimeter case did feature a date. That watch also featured a polished case. This is all satin finish, which is both a little bit more adult and better suited to the military inspiration of this tribute. You can also see that the Blancpain logo has been omitted from the case flank, and the timepiece in all regards has a lovely utilitarian aesthetic. It's not austere, but it does seem purposeful. Now, the bezel, as you can see, has the sapphire cap over a fully loomed base, so I think this is kind of essential on a modern 50 Fathoms. We've gotten used to the idea since the 2003 anniversary model that the sapphire cap gives a lustrous, upscale, pure luxury look to these watches, and we don't want to ever lose track of the fact that these watches are at heart opulent, so this is much welcome. The bezel itself, we'll do a little listen test against the mic. It's a true 120-click bezel, and eyes closed, I would have taken it for Rolex in terms of how it feels. That combination of a sharp detent but with a silky glide. I've often called that the alchemical genius of Rolex dive bezels. This is probably the first bezel I've ever experienced that does it just as well. You can see there's a lovely little sort of narrow beaded vintage inspired knurling outboard, and it is fairly easy to grip. Moving inboard, you've got that matte dial, and that moisture indicator is not just there for show. The color will change, as on the original from 1953 and the MIL-SPEC from 1959. It will actually change if moisture intrudes into the case. You can see that the dial is minimally adorned, and again, in tribute to the 1959 MIL-SPEC as adopted by the U.S. Navy, we have a printed dial rather than applique indices. The hands are white lacquered for contrast as well as historical homage, and Rolex, take note, you don't need to print a book on the dial. Just a few well-chosen scripts are welcome. Screw-down crown, 300 meters water resistant. Here you can see that it has perforated lugs, another nod to the past, so you can use your strap tool to pop off those bars and throw this watch on any strap. Toot sweet. Now, taking a quick look at the reverse side, you can see the caliber 1154. It's based on the long-running high horology Frederic Piguet 11 50. This is the 1154. A twin mainspring barrel's 100-hour power reserve. It beats away at 21,600 vibrations per hour. And as you can see, it has a free-sprung balance for toughness, a recessed bolt balance with variable inertia, and a free-sprung architecture. So all of the changes to timing are made using gold bolts on the balance, so shock and concussion cannot permanently change the timing of the watch. What you might not be able to see is that it also has an anti-magnetic silicone hairspring, so that hairspring makes the watch very resilient against powerful magnets, whether static or electromagnet. All of this pivots on 28 joules, and it features a 6-position adjustment, which is one more than the high horology and chronometer standard of 5. I'll also mention that on the rotor, which is a combination of satin and media blasted finish, you have the only mention of Hodinkee anywhere on the watch, and that's really its strength. If you're not quite into the Hodinkee image, guess what? Once the watch is on the wrist, no one else is going to know. In terms of finishing, this is great stuff. Blancpain makes beautiful movements, or I should say Frédéric Piguet makes it for them, and you can see that the edge of the rotor as well as the bridges is mirrored. That's a real mirrored chamfer, finished by hand, maybe started mechanically, but finished by hand. The Côte de Genève are especially broad and luminous with a nice gradient across their surface. Let's see if I can capture that to good effect. You can see just how broad they are. The stripes are laid down with an abrasive wheel, not stamped. Black polished screws with chamfered slots in circumference, and then we've got satination on the wheels and engine turning on the base plate. It is a good looking movement. And this is a good-looking watch. With only 250 made, they're also relatively scarce and unlikely to be common sight anywhere. Reach out to Tim Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details of this 50 Fathoms MIL-SPEC limited edition.